So for this, we're going to talk about equations of circles. And so a circle is just the set of points in a plane. So the set of points in a plane that are equidistant. Can't get that in there. Equidistant. Let me see if I can move this. That are come on. That are equidistant from a given point in the plane. That given point that we're talking about being in the plane is called the center of the circle. This should make sense to you automatically why this is locus, because locus is just a set of all points. So if we've got one point, we know that we're making a circle. So what we're going to talk about is how do we find these equations of the circles. So any segment whose endpoints are at the center of the circle and any point on the circle is going to be your radius, right? So if you've got a point that's the center and then you connect to any point on the circle, you've just drawn in a radius. If you've got a segment whose endpoints are both on the circle and you pass through the center, that's just double the radius, or it's called your diameter. You happen to know equations of lots of different shapes. You know that lines are y equals mx plus b, quadratics are y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Here's a new one. Oh, by the way, exponentials are y equals a times b to the x. Well, here's another one that you need to know. For whatever reason, when we talk about circles, instead of calling the centers, which is a point, x and y, they call it h and k. Don't know why, they just do. So h and k is sort of like alphabetical in terms of x and y. H comes first, y comes second. So the equation of a circle whose center is hk and has a radius of r is this form. It's going to have to be memorized. It's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. The equation of the circle can be derived using kind of triangles and Pythagorean theorem, stuff along those lines, which we don't do the derivation, but here's what the formula is, and again, you need to have this memorized. When you find the center and the radius of the following circles, you need to put this whole thing back into your equation. Well, you're not given an h and a k. But you know that anything added to x that remains itself would be 0. It's kind of like saying here, well, x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared is going to be 9, which is just 3 squared, right? So x minus 0 is just x, and x squared is x squared. And y minus 0 is just y, and y squared is y squared. And 3 squared is 9. When you start pulling out the h, the k, and the r, what you're going to do here is say, well, the center of my circle, so the center is going to be hk, which is 0, 0, and my radius is going to be 3, the square root of 9. Well, take a look at number 2. X minus 7 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 13. Well, x minus 7 squared, my h is going to be exactly what I see here, x minus h. Well, y minus k, the problem is I don't have y minus, I've got y plus. But I could, if I needed to, write this as y minus negative 2 squared, because y minus negative 2 squared is just y plus 2. So in fact, I do know what my k is. And my radius is 13, but I know that the square root of 13 squared is just 13. So my center here of my circle is going to be 7 comma negative 2, and my radius is the square root of 13. What you should probably figure out, or what you probably will notice, is that your centers are the opposite signs of what you see in your parentheses. In other words, if I just look at number 3, well, it's x minus 2 squared, which means my center of h is 2. Y minus 3 means my center k is 3. And then my radius is just the square root of 121, or 11. Same thing in 4. If my center is x plus 5, then my h is minus 5. If I don't have a value for y, then my center there for k is 0. And then my radius is just the square root of 15, which is irrational. You can't do it. So if you're given an equation, you should be able to pull out the center and the radius. Just like if you're given the center and the radius, you should be able to write your equations. Don't forget, all equations are in this form: x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So we know it's going to be x minus something squared plus y minus something squared equals, well, let's dump in what we know: x minus 4 squared, y minus negative 3 squared. Well, this really becomes a positive, equals 5 squared, which is going to be 25. So simplified, to make this look a little bit nicer, x minus 4 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 25. Here's the equation that you want. So again, whatever the sign is of the xy coordinate we're giving you, you just put the opposite sign into your equation. When it's 0, you don't put anything in there. So for this one, it's going to be x squared plus y minus 2 squared. And when I square root 7, or when I square the square root of 7, you just get 7. When you get down to 7, it's going to be not x minus, but x plus 2 squared plus y plus 5 squared equals 81. This last one, the 0, 0, just means x squared plus y squared. When you square the radius, you just get 11. Now you should be able to look at a graph, determine the center, determine the radius, and write your equation. So the center of this circle, if I look at my x and y axis, this center is 2, negative 1. This radius is 2. We're back to what we just did. And the equation of this circle, x minus 2 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 4. This one, here's your center, and the center is at negative 1, 1. And the radius here is at 4. So the equation becomes x plus 1 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 16. You should then be able to be given an equation of a circle and graph it. Here's the locus part. So, if I can slide this over. I can't. Okay. So this one happens to be x minus 1 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 9, which means my center is HK, 1, negative 3, opposite signs. My radius is the square root of 9, which is 3. So if I graph my center point, 1, negative 3, and then I do my radius, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I try to sketch my circle, there you have it. This is good for locus. Last one. On this one, you want to write the equation of the circle if the endpoints of the diameter are 1, 8 and 1, negative 6. Well, if they give you the diameter, the center point would be the midpoint of those two endpoints. So you need to find the midpoint, which is the center. So find center using midpoint. And that would be, then I've got 1 plus 1 cut in half, 8 plus 6 cut in half. So my center is going to be 2 divided by 2 and 14 divided by 2. Here's my center. To find the radius, well, the radius is just the distance from the center to an endpoint. So now you're going to find radius. My earring keeps hitting the thing. So you're going to find radius find radius using distance from midpoint to an endpoint. Let me just kind of bring this up a little bit. So I'm going to happen to use, in this case, I'm going to use the endpoint of 1, 8. This is my endpoint, and then my center point happens to be 1, 7. And then I'm going to use the distance formula here. So then we've got 1 minus 1 squared plus 8 minus 7 squared. This becomes 0 squared, which is 0. 8 minus, I'm going to put the 0 here, plus 8 minus 7 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So the square root of 1 in this case happens to just be 1. So now I've got the radius being 1. And then all I have to do is kind of come down here. I'll just do this real fast. Drop down. So if we already know that the center is 1 and 7, and the radius is equal to 1, then the equation of the circle, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And here's what they want. Okay, so lots of things to do with these particular circle problems. Good luck.